Alright, how's it going, bros? My name is YouTube Automation, and hold on to your oversized beige CRT monitors because today we're diving deep into the pixelated past. We're talking 2001, a time when dial-up was king and my hair was, well, probably just as questionable as it is now, just less of it. Welcome to our countdown of the top 10 most played MMORPGs in 2001. Yeah, you heard that right. We're going back to the era of chunky keyboards, questionable fashion choices, and games that took approximately 7 years to load. But hey, it was a simpler time, right? Or was it just more frustrating? Probably both. I wasn't even legally allowed to drive in most countries back then, let alone understand the complexities of aggro management or why that elf just stole my digital pants. But that's the beauty of it. Let's take a trip down memory lane and see which games captured our hearts back in the day, or at least captured our phone lines for hours on end, much to the dismay of our parents. We're talking about the pioneers, the legends, the games that made you beg for just 5 more minutes online, even if those 5 minutes were spent staring at a loading screen or getting absolutely demolished by a player 10 times your level. So, grab your cheapest energy drink, make sure your chair is in full recline mode, floor gang off, and prepare for a blast from the past that might just make you appreciate your 5G internet and 4K graphics a little bit more, or, you know, it might make you want to dig out that old Windows 98 machine from the attic. Don't do that. Seriously. Unless you're doing it for the memes, then absolutely do it and send me pictures. Let's get this ancient scroll unfurled. Alright, kicking things off at number 10, or, well, our first stop on this crazy train, is EverQuest. Or, as some people called it, EverCrack. And looking back, I can kind of see why. They say it had groundbreaking 3D graphics. And for 2001, I guess these blocky elves and slightly less blocky dragons were the equivalent of today's ray tracing. You could explore this massive, immersive world. Immersive meaning you'd spend 3 hours trying to find the right NPC, only to realize you left your magic what's-it back in a town 2 continents away. The dedication, the sheer, unadulterated patience. My brain can't even. Seriously though, people lived in North. They formed guilds, they had virtual economies, they probably even had virtual arguments about who left the virtual dishes in the virtual sink. It was a whole other life, man. The kind of game that made you forget about silly things like homework or sunlight or basic human interaction outside of a chat box. It was a phenomenon, and you've got to respect the grind, even if that grind involved killing approximately 10,000 giant rats to level up once. 10,000? That's more rats than in my entire apartment building. Probably. Next up, we've got Ultima Online, or UO for the cool kids. And let me tell you, this game was the wild west of MMORPGs. It boasted pioneering open-world gameplay, which basically meant you could go anywhere, do anything, and get absolutely murdered by anyone at any time. Player killers, or PKers, were rampant. You'd be innocently chopping wood, minding your own business, humming a little tune, and BAM! Some dude named Lord Grief teleports in, one-shots you, and takes all your hard-earned logs. The trust issues this game must have created. But that chaos was part of its charm, I guess. It was true freedom. You could be a noble blacksmith, a feared mage, or just that weird guy who collected everyone's lost shoes. The player-driven economy was insane. People built their own houses, ran their own shops. It was like a giant medieval sandbox, filled with opportunities and, more often than not, despair. Imagine trying to explain to your mum why you were crying because someone stole your virtual house deed. Simpler times, complex emotions. This was before toxic was even a mainstream gaming term. This was just Tuesday in Britannia. Alright, let's talk about Asheron's Call. Now this one was interesting because it had unique monthly updates. Monthly! Back in 2001, can you even imagine the development crunch? Nowadays, we complain if a battle pass doesn't have enough skins. These guys were dropping entire story arcs and world changes every 30 days. It's like the game was alive, constantly evolving. Your favorite grinding spot could be overrun by new terrifying monsters next month. Or a whole new island could just appear. The dedication was unreal. And this evolving storyline thing, that's pretty cool, not gonna lie. It meant the world of Dareth actually felt dynamic, not just a static map you memorized. It had this whole vibe of discovery and ongoing narrative that probably kept players hooked, wondering what crazy thing the devs would throw at them next. Imagine logging in and the sky is a different color, or there's a giant portal to who knows where. It's the kind of ambition you don't see as much anymore, or maybe I'm just old and jaded, probably both. Still, props to Asheron's call for trying to keep things fresh when fresh meant not crashing your Windows Me. Now we venture into the mists of Avalon or something with Dark Age of Camelot DOOC. This game was famous for its innovative realm versus realm combat. 3 factions, Albion, Hibernia and Midgard, constantly beating the ever-loving pixels out of each other. It was like a never-ending medieval soccer match, but with swords, spells and a whole lot more screaming into your microphone, if you even had one back then. Probably just angry typing. Take that, Midgard scum! The scale of these battles was supposed to be epic. Hundreds of players clashing, sieging castles, defending relics. I can only imagine the sheer unadulterated chaos and the lag. Oh god, the lag. With 2001 internet speeds, these massive RVR encounters must have looked like a slideshow animated by a particularly slow snail. But the bragging rights! Being part of the realm that dominated? That was probably worth all the 2 frames per second gameplay. It really pushed the idea of large-scale PvP in MMOs, and for that we salute it, even if our modems didn't. Breaking away from all the swords and sorcery, we have Anarchy Online, a sci-fi setting in an MMORPG in 2001. Bold move, Funcom, bold move. This was all about futuristic cities, laser guns, pew-pew, and probably a lot of chrome. So much chrome. It aimed for a different vibe, and I respect that. It also had this thing called a dynamic quest system, which sounds fancy. Did it mean quests weren't just kill 10 space rats? One can only hope. Maybe the space rats had complex backstories. The launch was apparently a bit of a disaster, like game barely functions kind of disaster. But hey, what iconic MMO launch isn't a bit rocky, right? It's part of the charm. Eventually they patched it up, and it carved out its own niche. People loved the deep character customization and the unique sci-fi world of Rubycar. It was probably a breath of fresh, albeit digitally polluted air for players tired of slaying dragons and wanted to, slay cyborg scorpions instead. Variety is the spice of life, or so they say, even if that spice is synthesized and comes in a nutrient paste. RuneScape. Yes, we all knew this one was coming. If you didn't play RuneScape in a school computer lab, minimizing the window every time a teacher walked by, were you even a gamer in the early 2000s? This was the browser-based MMORPG. No hefty downloads, no complicated installs, usually. Just fire up Internet Explorer. And you were in Geelinor, probably chopping yew trees or getting scammed for your rune scimitar. Good times. Such innocent, easily scammed times. The accessibility was its superpower. It ran on pretty much anything that could connect to the internet, which meant everyone could play it. The graphics were charmingly simplistic. Let's be generous. Blocky, but iconic. And the skills, woodcutting, fishing, mining, firemaking. It was like a life simulator, but with more dragons and less existential dread, or maybe more, depending on how many times you died in the wilderness. RuneScape was, and still is, a legend. It proved you didn't need fancy graphics to hook millions of players. You just needed a good grind and the ever-present threat of losing all your stuff. Next, we bow our heads to Lineage. This game was, and still is, an absolute behemoth, especially in South Korea. We're talking cultural phenomenon levels of popularity. While we were fumbling with our 56K modems, players in Korea were already masters of the massive siege warfare and intense PvP that Lineage was known for. NCSoft knew what they were doing, creating a game that was incredibly sticky and, let's be honest, incredibly grindy. But, the rewards when you finally got that +10 enchanted sword. The scale of its battles was legendary. We're not talking small skirmishes, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of players clashing on screen. My modern PC would probably cry a little trying to render that, let alone a machine from 2001. It was a game of dedication, of massive guild alliances, and probably a lot of energy drinks. It really set the stage for the Korean MMO dominance for years to come, with its focus on hardcore progression and large-scale social conflict. It's a different breed of MMO, and you gotta respect the sheer scale of it all. All right, now, for a game that proves graphics aren't everything, Tibia, if you thought RuneScape was basic, Tibia was like, hold my pixelated beer. The graphics were, let's call them stylized, very, very stylized, like 2D sprites on a tile-based map. But don't let that fool you. Beneath that super simple exterior was a surprisingly deep and often brutally punishing MMORPG. This game was hardcore. You die, you lose experience, skills, and possibly your items. No hand-holding here, kids. It had this mysterious, old-school charm, exploring vast, dangerous dungeons, solving cryptic quests, and the ever-present fear of being lured into a trap by other players. The community was tight-knit, probably because they were all traumatized together. Tibia is a testament to the idea that compelling gameplay loops and a sense of real risk and reward can keep players engaged for decades, even if your character looks like a sentient garden gnome. It's the ultimate don't judge a book by its cover MMORPG, or in this case, don't judge an MMO by its sprite count. Okay, now for a big one, a name that resonates even outside the MMO sphere. Final Fantasy XI. Square Enix, or Squaresoft back then I think, my memory is like a sieve, decided to take their legendary RPG series online. And boy, was it an ambitious undertaking for 2001, especially with its cross-platform play between PC and PlayStation 2. Imagine trying to type in party chat with a PS2 controller. The horror, the absolute horror. But people did it. For the love of chocobos and moogles. FFXI was notoriously challenging. It demanded teamwork like few other games. You couldn't just solo your way through Vana'diel. You needed a party, you needed strategy, you needed patience. Lots and lots of patience. Getting anything done could take hours, but that difficulty forged strong bonds between players. It was a true Final Fantasy experience with an epic story, iconic jobs like Black Mage and Warrior, and that beautiful Uematsu-esque music. It was a commitment, a lifestyle even, and for many their first real taste of a persistent online Final Fantasy world. And probably their first taste of waiting 45 minutes for a party invite. And finally, rounding off our trip to 2001, we have Phantasy Star Online. PSO, this was a game changer, man. An MMORPG on a console. The Sega Dreamcast, no less. This blew my tiny mind back then. Plugging your console into the internet via a modem to play with people from all over the world. That was some futuristic sci-fi stuff, right there. And it actually worked. Mostly, it was all about that 4-player cooperative gameplay, teaming up with your buddies to blast aliens on the planet Ruggle. The futuristic aesthetic was super cool, the combat was action-packed for the time, and finding rare weapons was like striking gold. It had this unique, almost arcadey feel to its instance missions, which made it really accessible and fun to just jump in and play. PSO showed that online multiplayer RPGs could thrive on consoles, paving the way for so many games that followed. It had style, it had substance, and it had Mags, those little floating robot companions. What more could you ask for in 2001? Maybe a better internet connection, but hey, PSO was awesome regardless. Woo! And there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour through the digital landscapes of yesteryear. Thanks for joining us on this nostalgic journey through the top MMORPGs of 2001. My eyes are kind of blurry from all those low-res textures, and I think I can still hear the faint screech of a dial-up modem in the distance. It's crazy to think how far gaming has come, from these pioneering titles to the massive, sprawling online worlds we have today. But you know what? These old games had a certain charm, a certain magic that's hard to replicate. Maybe it was the novelty, maybe it was the shared struggle, or maybe we just had more patience back then. It's wild to see what captured our imaginations and our phone lines 2 decades ago. These were the games that built communities, forged friendships and rivalries, and laid the groundwork for the MMO genre as we know it. Which one was your favorite? Were you an EverQuest addict, a RuneScape grinder, or did you brave the wilds of Ultima Online? Let us know in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear your ancient game of war stories. Spill the beans. What was your go-to snack while waiting for respawns? And hey, if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, or if you just like watching me talk about old stuff that makes me feel like a dinosaur, then you know what to do. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more gaming content. Seriously, click it. It helps the channel. It helps me afford, well, more games to talk about. Until next time, stay awesome, Floor Gang for life, and don't get ganked. Bro fist!